Okay, slightly different setup than normal. See how this goes. So the last business video that I did, I actually messed up the sound, and I think it's something to do with the lapel mic and its positioning, but I happened to be shooting some voiceover work today, and I figured why not give more of a podcast feel to this. So I'm giving a different mic a go. It's more of my professional quality mic, but it's not really supposed to be used in this way, but we're going to see what happens. Anyway, enough rambling. We should talk about what we're actually going to talk about today. In my last vlog video, I talked more about sustainability, and I wanted to further expand on those thoughts. Man, I'm going to have to control my hands, because if I smack this, you're going to get a nasty sound, and so will I. When I first started this vlog series, I actually talked about how the working week was very cylindrical. It was no longer Monday to Friday, and your work just consistently kept turning. This is what it feels like to me. Oh, I go the wrong way. Like this consistent kind of turning. There's no start, there's no finish. There's just this turning of constant days. And I think in all honesty, that's absolutely fine as you're starting up. But as you start to grow and take on more clients, then that mentality becomes an issue. My ramblings about sustainability really focused on like, how do I better balance my life so that I can, continue this in a long-term sort of thing? And I think in a way, I've been kind of thinking about this a little bit backwards. My consideration at the moment is I can actually work pretty much 7 days a week and 24 hours a day. Not that that is particularly healthy. When I've started to look at whether I should bring someone into the business, my thoughts really revolve around the fact that I can actually get the work done. I just need to put like a little bit more time, a little bit more time, a little bit more time to try and get that work done. I think the problem with that is that eventually you will expand what you're doing to say 24 hours and then you just drop dead, right? So perhaps when I talk about sustainability, when I talk about bringing someone into the business, what I actually need to do is put limitations on myself. So instead of constantly expanding my work until the point that I just can't do that any longer and therefore need someone, is perhaps I need to limit myself. What I mean by limit myself is limit the amount of hours that I'm working. So perhaps I set my hours to 9 to 5 or whatever, is appropriate for you. And the work that I can get done in those hours is that limitation. From there, the overspill work, the work that's not getting done, can probably be given to someone else. I mean, obviously you would divide up the tasks to what's appropriate for that person, but in a sense, what you can only get done in these particular hours, what's outside of those hours goes to someone else. And that then means that you've got room to continue to expand. I mean, it's very easy to say, I'll only work from here to here, but obviously sometimes you'll put more time into a project that does fall out of that sort of like barrier that you're trying to give yourself, effectively covering that sort of peaks and troughs that you get. I think also along with this consideration for another person, I've also been looking at space. One of the biggest issues I can foresee is that if I bring someone in, I've got to maintain the quality of the work that I do. The obvious answer there is, well, put them where you can see them. Don't just give work and they go somewhere else and they do it and they come back, because that's uncontrolled. But when you work from home like I do, then finding somewhere to put someone that's, a reasonable workstation, i.e. not stuffed in a linen closet somewhere, is something that's a little bit difficult. So then the easy option for people would be like, just get some space. But again, as I discussed in my last video, I'm more than just a desk. I've got equipment to store, I want shooting areas and stuff like that. So I've also been considering that for the last little few days. But I think the same as any sort of business change, perhaps there's a step process to go through. And for me, what that could mean is when I move houses, then perhaps I find a more suitable space to get somebody in where they're not stuffed in a cupboard at the back somewhere. And that may not be the best space to shoot in, but we can still rent out studios when we need that particular service. So yeah, I think that kind of smaller intermediary step of having someone in, a bit of space to store things, but not necessarily filling the entire dream, as it were. Why do I always burp when I do these things? Would probably be the right answer. Other things that I want to mention in that whole sustainability and going forward talk, it's really kind of small stuff, but it's really, I just feel like, again, I've got to jump another level. And it's stupid things like, I want my desk to look better. And I know that sounds so pedantic, but I think it's a mindset of a business that's taking it further forward. And then there's more practical things like I should really pay into my super. Now my super, or pension if you're not aware of what that means, has really been on hold since I left my proper job. And when we talk about sustainability and going forward, then I've really got to think about what is the long-term solution for all this sort of stuff. Just as when I started, I didn't really have an accounting system at all. I would handle all of my invoices manually. I would make sure that I was being paid and all that sort of manual stuff. I didn't even have a separate bank account. But I think as that continued process of stepping the business forward, I need to think more professional, more like bigger, basically, bigger and better. With that obviously comes costs down to the client, and hopefully I've built a good enough brand that provides enough value that people understand why you've got to constantly be evolving and do better things. I mean, I guess they can understand why I need to buy new equipment to do better videos for them, but perhaps they don't see this behind the scenes stuff. However, the advantage that I do have is a lot of the people that I work with run their own businesses, so I think they get it as well. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up. I'm going to stop all my ramblings, but hopefully that's detailed a little bit more on my views on sustainability for businesses, and also where I can foresee I'm sort of heading to with regards to people and space. To be honest, it sounds so easy to make that decision, but when you're in the chair making the decision, it's not as easy as it sounds. It is not black and white. There is a lot of grey, there's a lot of options, and really it's down to me as a business owner to make that important decision. Do you, when you're just about feeling like you're making it, do you risk it all again, have that drop in income so that hopefully you can keep building, or do you kind of sit on that plateau for a little bit and just, you know, reap what you've basically sowed for the last 2 to 3 years? For me, all of these discussions around sustainability are for 2 reasons, and perhaps I should have explained sooner, but they're for 2 reasons. The first one is for the business, to make sure that long term it's actually going to work, that I don't fall apart at the seams. And interlinked with that, the second reason is purely around as a person. Like, you've got to go on holiday, you've got to have better work-life balance. It's one of the reasons that I quit my proper job to do this sort of stuff, is that I could get better, proper work-life balance. Because from a purely selfish perspective, it's holding up a few personal film projects that I'd really like to get on with. And after about, it's either 3 or 4 years without a holiday, I would really like one. Anyway, I've probably rambled on as usual way too long. If you have enjoyed the video, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. If you've got any questions or comments, please do leave them down in the description. If you're interested about the business and you want to keep in touch with this story, then consider subscribing to the channel. And as ever, thanks for watching.